Glenveigh National Park lies in the heart of the Derryveigh Mountains in the northwest of County Donegal. It's a remote and hauntingly beautiful wilderness of rugged mountains and pristine lakes. It's the second largest of Ireland's 6 national parks, and like so many properties that now belong to the state, Glenveigh Castle was given to the nation by a generous benefactor. These benefactors are often completely unknown to the wider public. So who was Henry McElhenny? What brought him to Donegal? And what lay behind his decision to make such a generous gift to the people of Ireland?
Glenveigh was his theatre.
That was his whole life, was to entertain people. And he was very good with people.
Well, he was always being bugged, you know, by people to do his memoirs, write a book, Henry, a memoir. And he said, you know, I'm too busy making new ones.
I think he is an example of an underexplored range of Ulster Scots people.
The dinners were part of the fun because he liked to put people together where it would be interesting. Lively.
He had a painter's eye. He had an art connoisseur's eye. And you can't really teach that.
I wanted to capture that moment when you meet Henry for the first time, and he's standing in the doorway or something, and his hands are usually behind his back, and he's beaming. And he liked it very much. He said that's the way he likes to see himself.
The history of Glenveigh has not always been as peaceful as it is today. In order to create the large estate, which eventually became the National Park, its first owner, John George Adair, evicted 46 families from the land. In 1873, Adair built a castle beside Lochveigh, modelled on Queen Victoria's Balmoral Castle in Scotland. After he died, his American widow spent much of the next 30 years at Glenveigh, becoming a society hostess and well-liked in the locality. In 1929, the estate was bought by another American, Arthur Kingsley Porter, a professor at Harvard. Kingsley Porter owned Glenveigh for just 4 years before he disappeared mysteriously, and his widow sold the estate to a 27-year-old American with Ulster Scots roots, Henry McElhenny.
The Ulster Scots people, particularly in Donegal, would have come over here in quite big numbers in the 17th century. There was a plantation designed by James VI of Scotland, or James I of England, to kind of settle people who would behave themselves in Ireland effectively. And so a number of families, indeed communities, were more or less planted here from Scotland.
The McElhennys were one of the Ulster Scots families that settled in Donegal. James McElhenny, Henry's great-grandfather, was a successful cloth merchant in Milford, but in 1843 he became seriously ill, and on his deathbed he urged his young wife to take their 4 children to America.
Looking at, at the number of the passenger lists, this is by no means an unknown phenomenon. This might be the best opportunity that a widow could take.
Mary Ann McElhenny set sail for America with the children. Her eldest child, John, was just 13 when the family arrived in Philadelphia. They stayed in the city for a few years before moving to Columbus, Georgia, where John studied to be.
My grandfather was born in Ireland, invented a gas meter, and it really had the monopoly. And he moved from Columbus, Georgia, where he was the mayor for 20 years after the Civil War, and came to Philadelphia.
The Scotch-Irish were fundamentally religious people. They were God-fearing. They felt that that should rule one's life.